Tripping on back from the legs, say something. Never tell her back that I never stay running. Sipping on facts, damn, know I got stacks in the lab, taking bitches straight for another cat.
This is a boy who was raised by a bear. Since childhood, he lived in the deep woods. Originally, he was accompanied by a grandfather who was not related by blood. But when he was 3 years old, his grandfather suddenly left him. He hasn't returned for 9 years now. Before he left only one sentence: "You must not leave the mountain." All these years he remembered the words of his grandfather. Never once went out. But what he doesn't know is, his grandfather, who looked like a village man, was the world's #1 demon. Attacked 9 years ago. In the end, he was killed by his own brother in the middle of nowhere. But all these years of peace were about to be shattered by the intrusion of an outsider. On this day, Luo Fei was catching fish at the river as usual, just thinking about how to bring these fish back. He found a man surrounded by several jars. By now the man was full of fatigue. Life is about to dissipate. At this point, Luo Fei suddenly swoops down on an altar and interrupts their fight. "Uncle, lend me your altar for a while." Luo Fei's appearance startled the man next to him. Then a roar, "Kid, it's danger." With a huge sword in hand, he quickly shattered the enemy's altar. The monster in the altar came out with a gloomy face and said, "See my real body, I will let you die more miserable. Prepare for my wrath." Next second, the monster's pupil emits a yellow glow. Luo Fei and the man were caught in an illusion. Just as the monsters were trying to tear them apart, Luo Fei suddenly woke up and tapped him on the nose and said, "Wait a minute. I'll say something first. You're so old, how can you just smash someone's altar?" Monster was just trying to stop the man when Luo Fei's yelling woke him up. The first time to protect Luo Fei behind. Then, the monster's legs were cut off with a full force move. Luo Fei was stunned to see such a gory scene for the first time. As the saying goes, escape is the best plan. To avoid being rippled into itself, Luo Fei quietly prepares to escape. But just at that moment, the monster pulled out of his nose a flute mixed with 30 years of snot, and then put it in his mouth and blew on it. Several jars instantly swarmed with countless vipers. Before Luo Fei could react, the man grabbed him in his arms and fled into the distance. In this moment of crisis, the man still reassures Luo Fei, "Don't worry, kid. I won't leave you behind." However, Luo Fei's thoughts at this time were, "If I don't go back and cook for the bears, I don't know how much trouble I'll make. In order to find a chance to escape, I simply pretend to be unconscious." Just then, the man's snake venom kicked in. The whole man instantly fell powerless into the water. When about to die here, a strange force inexplicably pushed them out of the water. It was hard to get a life back. At that moment, the monster suddenly appeared in front of them with a trident in his hand. Suddenly, the trident inexplicably began to break apart. Then an invisible force rose up and shook the monster several meters away. While the monster was injured, the man continues to run with Luo Fei in his arms. At this point, the monsters looked at the broken weapon in their hands and were shocked. But suddenly remembered a scene from before. There was a resentment inside. The Lord, whom he admired so much, suddenly released the captive man for some reason. And, the Godfather looked at the man's back with a reluctant expression of reluctance. This makes hiding on the sidelines to peek at him very heartbroken. In this world, anyone who makes the Godfather sad will die. After saying this, he summoned an endless army of vipers. He went after them in the direction they had fled. It took only a short time to catch up with them. The monster stood on high and let out a loud laugh, "Go to hell." After saying that, he sent out the skill poison swarm dance. The snakes immediately attacked like a giant python towards the two of them frantically. Seeing such a shocking image, Luo Fei finally can't act anymore. He told the man to run away. Without running a few steps, the man knew that this time was in danger. And he put Luo Fei down and told him to run for his life. He stayed behind to buy Luo Fei time to escape. Luo Fei was a real person too. He said "Oh" and ran away. But the man was at the end of his rope. In just a few rounds, he was on his knees with his last ounce of strength. At this point, he was no longer able to fight. He was left to be swallowed up by countless vipers step by step. At that moment, Luo Fei's voice suddenly came. He actually came back. Originally, he did not want to meddle. But this man gave his life to save him. Luo Fei couldn't bear the thought of him dying among the snakes like that. Luo Fei said with a cold face, "Uncle, get out of the way." The monsters were very annoyed when they heard that. "I can't believe I was provoked by a little kid. But in the next second he regretted it completely. Luo Fei's pupils suddenly changed color and emitted a demonic purple glow. Then a dark red energy burst out from his center. In just a moment, he shattered the snakes around him. Even the woods within 100 meters were flattened. The power was beyond the imagination of the monsters. The scalp suddenly tingles. It felt like the next second the force would tear him apart. A few minutes later everything was calm. At this moment, the monsters were still standing in the same place breathing heavily. I can't believe I'm still alive. When he came back to his senses, there was no one in front of him. However, just now Luo Fei's powerful breath was directly transmitted to the ancient city thousands of miles away. It caught the attention of a mysterious man.